today's video cast, I'm going to be doing another video cast on miscarriage. So on Friday, we looked at miscarriage part one. And if you haven't watched miscarriage part one and this is something that you want to know more about, then please go back and watch the first video before you watch this one. Because they're going to kind of go together and it's just more information building on top of the last video. So as you would have known from the last video, miscarriage is a huge grief issue because it's not only the loss of a baby, it is also, as we spoke about on Friday, the loss of hopes, dreams, and expectations that your life was going to go down this particular way. The minute a woman, you find out that you're pregnant, that's it. The baby's life is mapped out. You know, you've made this instant connection. And of course, this is true for men as well. It's not a maternal one, it's a paternal one. But for a mum, it is a very strong connection. And so when that happens and when that is taken away, it is absolutely devastating. And of course, the first thing you do is turn to those that you love for support. But because of the teachings that we've been given through generations and the teachings you would have told yourself, the conversations that you have in the aftermath of a miscarriage are usually very unhelpful. And that is not your fault. But because those conversations with our trusted loved ones don't usually go in the way they're meant to or should do, or perhaps I shouldn't use the word should, they don't go in the way that maybe they could do and that they would do if there was more information on this subject. What you do with that is you internalize that information, which is all correct, which is basically, oh, don't feel bad. Just move on, replace the loss. So the suggestions will be that you can replace the baby you lost with another baby. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. And that, just keep yourself busy, be strong, and just wait for time to heal you and wait to have another baby. And in the aftermath, it feels so inherently wrong to be misheard and not to be heard that we internalize that stuff and that anger and all of the stuff that's going to be natural feelings, and we push it down and then we go into depression. Because when we suppress anger, when we suppress our emotions, we go into depression, and that is not a good place to be. We almost need to really be able to access those feelings. We have to access those feelings, because when you suppress the feelings and the feelings go and then you get depressed, it's very hard to feel. And then what women do that have gone through a miscarriage is they kind of just live out through their minds. So it's very hard for them to be able to really know how they feel, to access that because of all those indoctrinations. So I just want to go back and look at this idea of replacing the loss, because it's one of the big things that you're told after a miscarriage. And it is so, as I spoke about in video one, it's so abusive. I hate those labels, but it's the nearest I can get to kind of get across my passion for how bad this is. It is almost abusive to say to someone, don't feel bad, you can have another baby, because of course you don't want another baby, you want that baby that you miscarried. Of course you want to have a baby, but this idea that we can just replace people and we can replace animals or we can replace loved ones, or this idea that we just replace stuff is so incorrect, and it leads you down some very lonely inner paths that maybe you don't need to go down if you were just heard and held within your absolute devastation, and that there isn't a comparison and that there isn't a fix and that you don't need fixing, you just need to be heard. So when we're told that thing about, well, don't feel bad, you can have another baby, it creates such shutdown. And of course, it's not always true. So let's look at that one before we look at the next option. So the first option is it's not always true, because sometimes the miscarriage might cause problems that you can't have another baby, or it might just be that you can't seem to be able to have another baby, or the relationship broke down. and you can't have another baby with that partner, or there's a whole variant of things. So it might not be true anyway. So we've got more loss, so the loss of having the baby, then we've got the loss of maybe being able to actually have another baby. Then we've got all of underneath that, we've got all the losses that you went through before the miscarriage, and they're all magnified and they're all piled up together, and they land on your lap, or should we say, they land in your heart and your mind at the same time. And it is just this, catastrophic set of feelings that you're going to go through, which of course most people might not recognize and wonder what's wrong with you, whereas in fact there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to be heard, and you've had a devastating event that has brought up a lot of grief, and there is a grief event in your life. So the other option is option 2, that you do have another baby, or you do get pregnant. Even let's not even look at having another baby yet. A lot of women don't just have one miscarriage. Some women can have many, many miscarriages. And then what? So we've got another miscarriage that sits on top of the first one that probably hasn't been properly dealt with in an emotional manner. We haven't walked through the pain of that and come out the other side. So we have another one and another one, another one, another one. And, it's just awfully, awfully, awfully devastating to hear the stories that I hear of women that have gone through just unnecessary, in my opinion, and no, not just in my opinion, very much unnecessary pain and teachings, because it's wrong that we're not taught what to do. It's wrong that we're not taught how to move beyond pain. It's wrong that we're not taught what to do with our heartbreak. This is something I feel really passionate about as someone that's gone through inordinate amounts of heartbreak and spent decades trying to work out what to do. Wasted time that, had I had the tools that I teach, things might have gone in a different way. So that option 2 of looking at having another baby, that's not always the way. So then what? So then we've got more loss. And unless you actually deal with the loss, that first miscarriage, how on earth can you deal with any others? That's just like unbelievably difficult for you. So then the other option is that you actually do have a baby. But having a baby is a beautiful and wonderful thing. But then there can be a lot of guilt that you had this baby and then you didn't have the other babies. Women can go into all sorts of stuff. It's normal to have such conflict over events that you go through. And so eventually having a child, but not having had the previous child that was miscarried, it can still cause a lot of pain. And so it's recognizing that as well, and also knowing that that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Of course, you missed the first child that you didn't have, and that it's not something that you can just not think about or not feel bad about or not, all of that rubbish that we're told. Incidentally, if you haven't seen on my videos on my page, you'll see there's one that says the lies of grief. Just go through and watch those, because they're really useful to see where I'm building from if you're not familiar with my work. So yes, it's a very deep and painful, convoluted set of paths here, and all of them are painful. Yes, we've got the outcome, of course, we've got the outcome you really wanted, which is to have the baby in one of those options, but that doesn't come without the other feelings that women talk to me about, which is never forgetting the baby you didn't have. And having that brushed aside can be very painful, as I've been speaking about. But also it's about, well, what do you do then? How do you move beyond the pain of not having the baby? How do you begin to move beyond the pain of miscarriage? So I'm going to go into this a little bit more tomorrow, as I'm nearly at my 10 minutes now. But I hope that that's given you even more information on top of Friday, so you can start to pull this stuff together and realize that actually, there's nothing wrong with you or the person that you know that's gone through a miscarriage, and that maybe they just need you to listen to their pain and their story and be given a hug. No fixing, no telling them that nonsense, or telling yourself that nonsense if this is you. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to talk about it. And if the people that you love can't hear you, find someone that can. Find that trusted, safe person in your life, whoever that is, to listen to you. And by the way, it's not normally family, it's normally our friends. Family are too emotive. There's usually a safe friend to talk to, and they're the ones that you could talk to for the best end result of just being heard. So thanks for watching as always, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.